Alright. We're going to get started. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kate Matthews-Bray, and I'm the Director of Alumni Engagement here at NJIT. Thank you for joining us for this afternoon's webinar, Upskilling and Reskilling in the Age of AI. To stay competitive in the AI-driven world, continuous learning is essential. Dr. Michael Edmondson, Associate Provost at NJIT, will introduce the AI Upskilling Taxonomy, emphasizing problem-solving, collaboration, and resilience. This workshop explores how lifelong learning helps individuals and organizations adapt to AI. As you may have noticed when you entered the chat or the webinar, you were muted. We ask that you stay muted throughout the webinar. Feel free to ask questions throughout the chat. We're going to take some time at the end where folks can interact and ask questions and make comments. We want this session to be interactive, so you can make comments throughout. If you want to keep your video on or off, it's completely up to you. It's whatever you're most comfortable with. And we hope you enjoy this session. So it is my absolute pleasure to introduce my good colleague and friend, Dr. Michael Edmondson.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks again for your continued collaboration, my friend. Really appreciate it. Hi, everyone. I'm going to close my window so I won't be able to see anyone. Kate will monitor the chat. As she said, feel free to put, questions or comments into the chat. I do leave time at the end so that we can have a dialogue. You'll get my email. You'll get a link to this presentation. This is being recorded. So you'll have different ways to access this. So the whole point of today is really just to help you understand what's going on with AI. This is for all levels. So it's not like you have to have, a massive amount of knowledge here. This really is for everybody. So let me, people are still coming in. And Kate, you'll get those?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, great.
Got it.
So just a quick introduction. So I oversee the Learning and Development Initiative, or LDI, at NJIT. We're not even a year old yet. April 11th will be our 1-year anniversary. And the LDI, very simply, connects people to the skills and knowledge they need to succeed by offering a vibrant portfolio of non-degree credentials. And we do that by offering courses, custom training, events like this, learning and development services, and workforce development grant-based programs. At the end, I will talk about our new AI core competencies at NJIT and the AI literacy micro-credential that, yes, the NJIT alumni will be able to access for a discount come May, when we will launch them. And finally, we do have some upcoming free AI workshops. More on that later. You will see these slides again at the end. I'm just introducing them to you now here in the beginning. To learn more about the LDI, you can go to ldi.njit.edu. That's our subdomain. We have a page on LinkedIn. And again, you'll see this at the end. My director of custom training, for those individuals that would like training on site, or they can bring their employees to campus. Tracy has done an excellent job of creating a whole suite of custom training programs. She oversees the free workshops. You can connect with her on LinkedIn, and you have her email there. And this is my LinkedIn and my email. Again, you'll see this slide at the end, but I did just want to give this to you in the beginning. So let's dive right in and take a look at a working definition of AI. I'm going to give you a lot of information. There's a lot of resources, a lot of links.
Then we both can easily color.
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to give you a lot of information. You'll have access to lots of links. You can do your own homework. I will introduce you to some of the newest reports and a brand new book that I'm reading. So you can do your own homework. I'm introducing you to a lot of the latest research. And again, happy to engage in a dialogue with you after this. So let's start off by level setting and have an understanding of what AI is. If I don't know how many people are on this call, it could be 10, or it could be 100, it could be more. So if I asked everybody to define AI, I'm going to get a range of definitions. That's not really helpful when we're having a conversation about AI. So what you really need is a level set definition. The one I like to use is from Furman and Siemens from 2018. They characterized AI as a loose term used to describe a range of advanced technologies that exhibit human-like intelligence. That's going to be important in a minute. Which could include machine learning, autonomous robotics and vehicles, computer vision, language processing, virtual agents, and neural networks. That is a lot. We're not going to get into all that. That is a definition of AI. And I think the key phrase is a range of advanced technologies that exhibit human-like intelligence. Now, for our purposes here, I think it's really helpful to understand there's three forms of AI. We're all familiar with ANI, artificial narrow intelligence. That involves human interaction. The most common case study is, hey, Alexa, hey, Siri, right? You're a human, you're talking to the AI technology, and it's performing a task, right? Netflix uses AI when it recommends shows for you. That involves human interaction. That's ANI. That has been going on for several years now, and it's, as you will see, pretty prevalent. Artificial general intelligence, AGI, is where we're going. We're not there yet. There's some testing going on. Excuse me. This is where the AI itself understands what to do, and it has self-control. And of course, if you've been in there's a handful of cities in the nation that have Waymo, self-driving autonomous vehicles is an example of AGI. So there's pockets of AGI out there. It has not reached any level of saturation yet. We're getting there. And then finally, what everyone is afraid of, what keeps everyone up at night if you study this, is ASI, or artificial superintelligence, where the AI technology is actually superior to human intellect. It's been in lots of movies, The Terminator and The Matrix, for example. So these are three forms of AI. ANI, which is where we're at now, AGI, which is what we're developing, and ASI, which is sometime perhaps in the near future. Now, to that point, there have been three studies in 2018, 2019, and 2022 by Grutzenmacher, Zhang, and Grace that have asked the question, when will ASI, artificial superintelligence, which is superior to human intellect, when is ASI coming? In the 2018 study, they looked at 165 experts. Every line on each of these line graphs is an expert. 75% of the 165 experts said within the next 100 years. In 2019, Zhang found that 81% of 296 experts said within the next 100 years. And then 3 years ago, the Grace study found that 90% of the 356 experts gave a date within the next 100 years. Generally speaking, half of the experts gave a date before or somewhere in the neighborhood of 2060. Now, that's not that far away. What is that, 35 years away? Not far at all. Now, is that going to happen? No one knows. No one knows for sure, right? But what we do know, what we can prove today in 2035 is that some of today's AI models have passed what's called the Turing test. Now, this is extremely important to understand. The Turing test is not a test of whether or not a computer, form of technology, AI, whatever you'd like, is smarter than a human. It's not what it means. The Turing test is very simple. It's you have an interrogator, a human being, that is asking questions both to a human and to a computer. And if the interrogator believes, and again, he or she doesn't know who they're talking to or questioning, if they select the computer's answers then that means that that computer, that system, that program passes the Turing test because that machine's actions, its results, its answers, are indistinguishable from those of a human. And we have now today some AI tools and models that have passed the Turing test. It doesn't mean that they're smarter than humans or superior to human intellect. It's not what it means. For a good, and I'm trying to give you the latest research as well. Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google, wrote an opinion piece last week in the Wall Street Journal called AI Could Usher in a New Renaissance. He has a very positive outlook on this. And again, I recommend everything here just to read. I try to give you also things from different perspectives. So again, we don't know if ASI is coming. A majority of experts said it's probably in the 2060s. We need to revise, we need to do this survey again because with each successive year, there's more advancements and more disruptions in the marketplace. So we kind of have a sense that it's somewhere in the 2060s, but that could change. But we do know that some AI models have passed the Turing test currently. So let's take a look now that we've kind of broadly defined it. Again, I'm giving you a lot of information. You'll get all this at the end. You'll get a link to the presentation. Kate is also recording this, so you'll have that as well. So recognition of the speed of change. This is the second aspect of this presentation. So this is a simple bar graph of how many people are using the internet. And way back in 1990, which is not that very far along, not long ago, was it 35 years ago? Is that right? Yeah, 35 years ago. Right, you hardly had anyone on the intranet. And then in 2005, that passed 1 billion, and now we're over 5 billion people that are online, or 64% of the population. Right, the first website was launched on August 6th of 1991. And again, not that long ago, there was a point in time where you could just count the number of websites. Since hasn't been possible for decades now. But this is a very short period of time. So 64% of the world's total population is using the internet, and that number will continue to increase. What's really also quite fascinating to me is the fact that you've got billions of people connected online is the speed by which people adopt new technologies. So I have 3 data points for you to help illustrate this. It took 100 years, so a century, for 80% of Americans' households to have a toilet, 1860 to 1960, indoor plumbing. Took 100 years for American households to have indoor plumbing. It took 20 years for 80% of American households to have a computer, 1990 to 2010. Right? Big difference. And it only took 7 years for 80% of American households to have a smartphone, 2010 to 2017. You can see where this is going. Faster and faster adoption of technology, whether it's indoor plumbing, a desktop computer, or a smartphone. If you go to this page, you can see I think there's over 20 forms of technology that they have on this interactive graph. And it's such a brilliant tool. If you're, into this and can nerd out like me, you can spend, some time really understanding how people quickly adopted one of the forms of technology. And things are getting only faster because in 5 days in 2022, ChatGPT, which is just one of the many, many, many forms of AI in use today. A lot of people think AI is just ChatGPT. That is not correct. AI is a lot of different things. ChatGPT is one form of AI. And what's interestingly enough, in 2022, when it was released, it only took 5 days to reach 1 million users. Forget weeks, months, years, forget about it. Took 5 days. So here we are, moving even faster with each passing day, And when you have a cycle that is moving so quickly, there are going to be winners and losers. And just last week, Microsoft announced that it is shutting down Skype, and I think it's in May. They're telling people just go to Microsoft Teams. And this is the market share. It's just fascinating that for us who are a certain age, you remember Skype was the thing back in the day. Everyone was on Skype, before you had your video sense and FaceTimes on your phones, before Zoom and Teams, you had Skype. And now Skype is no longer. So basically in 2 to 3 decades, you can introduce a product, it can have a strong market share, and then it could plummet to 1.4% market share where it's no longer viable to even keep open. So this pace is, moving very quickly. What's going to replace Zoom and Teams? Who knows? If it's true that what is past is prologue, something will come along and replace it in the near future. Seems to be a very cyclical process. And I also want to just mention, because this impacts so many jobs and also power uses, this bar graph is the storage units required for all the data that we create, capture, share, copy, consume, trade, upload, download. Back in 2010, so 15 years ago, very little data, right? 2 zettabytes of data. Zettabytes is 1,000 exabytes. 1 exabyte is 1,000 petabytes. 1 petabyte is 1,000 terabytes. 1 terabyte is 1,000 gigabytes, and so on. Now, in 2025, globally, the 5 point some odd billion people online that are creating, capturing, sharing, trading, whatever with their data, pictures, files, right? 181 zettabytes will be stored globally. So we need an awful lot of power, to run the servers that store all this data. We could do a whole hour just on that. We're not going to. Again, just giving you a global view of the key macro trends so that when you talk about AI, you have an understanding of some of the fundamentals involved with upskilling and reskilling. And finally here, this is my grandson. I just became a grandfather on January 3rd. Our daughter and her wife had our first grandchild. This is Lucas Michael. It's his newborn picture on the left and yesterday's picture on the right. He's 2 months old. And so when he was born, because I'm a nerd, I did this exercise in my head. I said, okay, in 18 years, he'll graduate high school. That'll be 2043. What will the world look like? No clue. If, all things are going well, he has a great, vibrant life, he'll work for 50 years and retire in 2093. Yeah, forget. We can't even predict, a month from now. How are we going to predict 50 years? But then I went backwards. I mean, my PhD's in history, so I continuously look backward to look forward. And I said, what happened 18 years ago? Oh, well, the first iPhone was released. Oh, so smartphones have only been around for 18 years? Yeah. Yeah, I remember my whole childhood. I didn't have a cell phone. And then what happened 50 years prior to that? Oh, Sputnik. So this is not a long period of time, people, right? This is a very short period of human existence. So it's also important to recognize that anyone born after January 1st of this year, of 2025, is part of a new generation, Generation Beta. And Generation Beta are those that are born between 2025 to 2039. And if you're a leader, if you hire people, if you work, in the workforce with people, there are now 7 generations. Well, Alpha and Beta aren't in the workforce yet. I mean, they will be soon. But there's 7 generations with 7 completely different relationships with technology and AI that are in existence. Lucas's generation, Generation Beta, will be the first generation, because Generation Alpha didn't have this. Generation Beta will be the first generation to grow up with AI. Everything Lucas touches will have AI in it. That's going to shape everything about his world. And we need to keep that in the back of our mind, right? Now, because of all that I just said, there are 3 strategic imperatives of work today, right? I've got to write this up and get it out as a LinkedIn article. If you want to remain relevant in the future, and I mean future like 6 months from now, 18 months from now, and so on, there are 3 strategic imperatives of work. Number 1, you have to understand there's a new frontier of work, human and technology / AI collaboration. Human and technology collaboration has been going on for a little bit of time now, but now that you have AI coming in, and I'll show you some of the data, it is changing that. This new frontier of work is the human and AI technology collaboration. Number 2, leaders and employees, and I know NJIT alumni are extremely smart, and I have a lot of smart friends with PhDs, and I remind my smart friends, you need to be a lifelong learner. You need to continuously upskill and reskill to remain relevant. And the 3rd strategic imperative of work today, if you have any kind of managerial responsibility, your imperative is to help people achieve the right mix of technical and human, because we forget we're human, and human skills as the future of work continues to evolve. There are the 3 strategic imperatives. So the rest of the presentation is going to help you kind of understand that a little bit more, as we also look at AI and upskilling and reskilling in this new frontier of work. So let's take a look at the latest AI research. Again, I throw in a lot at you. We can talk about it at the end. You can digest it and come back to me in 2 weeks. It's all good, right? So let's just take a look at the latest AI research. We looked at how do you define AI? We looked at the speed of AI and the speed of change. And now we're going to take a look at some of the latest research. This just came out a month ago from the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. I've looked at dozens of reports. This is the best one, I think, that summarizes what's going on out there. Surveys of firms show a wide spread of adoption rates, ranging from 5% to about 40%, which means when people ask me what percentage of organizations are using AI, I'm like, it's all over the place. It depends on the industry. It depends on the location, right? It depends on the size of the organization. So in some studies, it's 5%, and others I've seen it as high as 70%. I know that's not true. Depends on who they were. There was a McKinsey report, I think, that said like, 70% of organizations are using AI. I'm like, there's no way in the world 70% of organizations are using AI, right? It's the respondent set. So it does range all over the place. So if you're, quote, behind, or you think you're behind, or someone's told you you're behind, that's not necessarily true. It's just not, right? Now, that's like adoption rates of organizations. Now let's look at workers, right? Surveys of workers show between 20 and 40% are using AI in the workplace, and that will also vary, right? Computer programmers are going to use it a lot more. What's important to remember, and again, kind of why I did this in the prior section, as the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System concluded, the available time series data all suggest rapid growth in adoption. Yes, rapid growth in adoption. And I end up with Edmondson's taxonomy of AI adoption to give you a blueprint on how to do this, right? Because people are doing it willy-nilly, and it's causing all kinds of problems, which we'll get to in a second. But this one report is excellent. I think, if you want to start here, take a look at this. I think it does help us conclude 3 things. 1, the adoption rates are going to vary widely. 2, not every worker is using, in fact, most workers are not using AI. And number 3, there's a continuous rapid growth in adoption. All right, so hopefully that made sense. Now, what are people using AI for? Lots of things, lots of things. The top 3 are productivity and efficiency, creativity and innovation, and quality of product or output. Will this vary by job? Absolutely. Will this change over time? Absolutely. Will this vary by industry? Absolutely. This is from Gallup. I'm sure you've heard of the company Gallup, the Gallup polling company. They have a lot of AI reports out there. You can Google them. Pretty good research. I think this one is from Q2 of last year. A little bit outdated. Isn't that ridiculous? Something that's 6 months old is outdated. But that's kind of like where we're going, right? Things are moving so quickly. But I left this in there because generally it's true. The first three I've seen in other reports. So people want to increase their productivity and efficiency, and using an AI tool is like the top reason for that. So it's important to understand. I'm going to give you a case study here. I've done this presentation before, and I think the case study works. You'll let me know. So when people say, "Hey, Michael, give me an example of upskilling and reskilling with AI," I don't know, I don't understand it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just convey a message. That was a research study that was conducted. The results were published in the New York Times in November of last year. And what they did is they took a bunch of medical records, and they gave the same medical records to three groups. First group was doctors without a large language model. It's a form of an AI tool. Doctors with a large language model, and again, LLM like a ChatGPT. And then just the LLM without docs, just the AI program itself, without any doctor, any human intervention. And so what this trial found, when the doctors without an AI tool looked at all the paperwork for all the different, files, they correctly diagnosed 74% of the time, right? Doctors with an AI tool did pretty much the same thing. There's no statistical difference here, right? 76% of the doctors with an AI tool correctly diagnosed, each patient. What's really fascinating is the third group here, the AI tool itself without any human physicians involved, correctly diagnosed 90% of the cases. It's really interesting. So that alone we could talk about for a long time, but the universe was good to me. It actually, for some reason, I don't always read, notes or comments of articles, but I'm glad I did, because a few days later, December 1st, Rachel Friedman of Santa Rosa, California, wrote a letter to the editor of the New York Times. And I absolutely love what she wrote. She said, "This study doesn't prove AI superiority over physicians. Rather, it exposes flaws in our outdated methods of education." So I know that's a shocker, but yes, education is decades behind technology, always has been, and it's only getting worse. The continued use of closed book testing for physicians inadvertently leads doctors to overvalue memorized information, an approach no longer as useful in a world where it is estimated, hopefully you're sitting down, where it is estimated that medical knowledge doubles every 73 days. There's no way any human can keep up with the fire hydrant amount of medical information that's coming out every 73 days. But an AI tool can. If anything, she writes, the AI naive physician skepticism of the GPT, or large language model, diagnosis reflects appropriate professional judgment. We're taught to demand validated evidence before changing our minds. So the solution isn't replacing doctors with chatbots, although there are some people that want to do that, but rather redefining what skills 21st century physicians need to succeed. And this is why I said one of the three imperatives earlier was a lifelong commitment to upskilling and reskilling. There are people out there that have as their life goal right now to get their AI tool to be a certified physician, a certified primary care physician as an AI tool. Right now, will that happen? I don't know. Evidence like this kind of helps support it. But obviously the human component can't, be left out, right? The new frontier of work is where humans and AI technology work together, right? Not, competing against each other. So, Dr. Friedman's spot on. We have to change the way we teach physicians. And, anything about education at all, making any change at any level of education is like steering an oil tanker that's leaking oil in the middle of the ocean around and to do a U-turn, right? It's virtually impossible. Not impossible, just virtually impossible. So that's a really good case study that demonstrates the three imperatives, strategic imperatives of the future of work. But now, when we talk about change and upskilling and reskilling for your employees or for yourself, the driver of that change, I mean, if you want to incorporate AI into your company or into your classroom, right, you have to understand the role culture plays. This gets overlooked all the time. It actually blows my mind. I don't understand it. But, Peter Drucker, the business, consultant, from decades ago, wrote also so many good things. His great quote is strategy, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Like, I don't really care about your strategy. It doesn't really matter what your strategy is. What's your culture? If you're struggling with getting AI into the company, it's a cultural thing. I've talked to lots of alumni. I've talked to plenty of people that have their own companies or are managing a business unit. There's no AI plan. They're struggling. They're not sure what to do. Or their division's ahead of another division with AI. Or there's a division that doesn't want anything to do with AI. I got teachers at the K through 12 and university levels that want nothing to do with AI in their classroom yet. High school students and college students are leveraging AI every way they can. I teach oral presentation Tuesday nights to my students. I have an AI policy. You can absolutely use AI to help you with your speech outline. But guess what? Your AI agent isn't going to be standing up in front of the class every single Tuesday night, giving a 3-minute speech on a specific topic. The human has to do that, right? So we have to have an understanding of where you fit in this support of adopting AI in your world, right? And it could be something personal. I had a family member that had some MRI tests done and some other tests. I said, send them all to me. Put them all into an AI tool. And then my prompt was, write this out so a 5th grader could understand it. Gave it back to my family member. I said, take this to your doctor. Make sure you understand what they're saying and use this language. See if there's a disconnect or if the AI tool was spot on. For the most part, it was spot on, right? There's ways to incorporate it into our personal and professional lives, but only if we have the right mindset. Only if we have the right mindset. So let's take a look at culture. So we first have to ask ourselves, where are we? Where are we in this world? Well, here's where we're at. We're on the precipice of unprecedented change and development, right? Again, I don't have any time to get into human progress through time. I don't know who did this. I would love to find the person that created this. I would love to give them attribution. If you know whoever did this, it's on the internet. Please let me know. I will give them due recognition. This is where we're at. The next X number of years, it's going to be unprecedented, right? This is where we're at, human progress through time. But the research also tells us 4 critically important things that we all need to know. This is Gallup data. The research tells us that workers are disengaged. 30% of people are disengaged at work. I mean, it's 31% are engaged, which means that, what is that? 69% are disengaged. And out of that, 18% are actively disengaged. They come into work and they're on their phone the whole time. So you got 1/3 of the workers that are engaged and 2/3 that are disengaged. That's terrible. Now, this is, you take a look at the green line, right? It really hasn't changed much over time. If you drew a trend line through that, it's not going to be that great. So you got 1/3 of workers everywhere that are engaged, right? As a leader, I think that's important to understand. Second thing is Gallup did a life evaluation index. And what they found is that 50%, now this is just of US employees, 50% are thriving, and the other 50% are either suffering or struggling. So when I walk into a room, and I keep all this data in my head. So when I walk into a room and there's 100 people, just making this up, I recall this line graph. Okay, well, I know half of these people are probably thriving with their work, and the other half are probably struggling or suffering. And it depends on the situation, right? Maybe there's more that are thriving if it's, an event that really is for senior leaders or something like that. But generally speaking, any room that I walk into, I'm assuming half of the people are struggling or suffering. That helps me relate to people, right? It reminds me to be empathetic. It reminds me to be kind. It reminds me to be compassionate. All of which seems to be thrown out the windows these days, right? We have to understand who we're looking at, who we're talking to. The data are pretty clear, right? And again, this really hasn't changed a whole lot. And many are looking for a new job. This is from the Wall Street Journal in December. It's no surprise, that if you only have a third of the workers that are engaged, and 45% are struggling and another 4% are suffering, well, it should not surprise us that many are looking for a new job, right? It just shouldn't surprise us at all. So, in a world marked by hyper change, with the adoption of technology is happening faster and faster, where employees are disengaged, struggling, or even suffering and looking for a job, you want to do what? You want to introduce AI? Oh, no, boss, I ain't got time. I don't even care, right? The data is pretty clear. I mean, the data's not going to lie. It is what it is. So then you have to ask yourself, all right, look, we've got, goals to meet. We got revenue to bring in, whatever the case is. My question to you is, what are you doing to promote a culture of equanimity and change? How are you helping create a sense of belonging, a sense of worth, right? A sense of, hey, you are relevant to the team. What are you doing then to help people get engaged so that you can institute the change that is needed for your organization to remain relevant? Right? Let's take a look at organizational culture. So this is Gallup as well. Your AI strategy will fail without a culture that supports it. This is a good article from November. Again, it's saying what I've been ranting about for the last 40 minutes. There's no signs of slowdown in corporate investment in AI and other digital technologies. The AI revolution is here, and it's up to leaders to ensure their organizations and people are ready to make the most of it. Most are not, because of the culture factor, right? The new frontier of work, again, reiterating what I said earlier, right? Your job as a leader is to help workers achieve the right mix of technical and human skills, as that's what is demanded. And Karen Kimbrough, the chief economist of LinkedIn, wrote in the latest report, and I'll give you the name of that report in a minute. There's 2 reports you really should read. To successfully navigate the ongoing shifts at work, especially those brought on by AI, organizations, leaders, and individuals must adopt a mindset that embraces change and prioritizes continuous learning. But it's so hard. It's learning and development is usually the first budget that's cut when times get tough. And then leaders and managers are wondering why their people are falling behind. Well, because we didn't prioritize learning. Having a college degree is wonderful, but it's not the end of learning. It's not the end of learning at all, right? It's kind of just like the first gate you pass through. So that quote, and these are the 2 reports you should, they're free, get them online. They came out in January. The World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report from January of 2025 is excellent. Now, it is, I think, 190 pages because it looks at every country in the world. Obviously, you don't have to read it all, but the first 20 or so are good. And then the Work Change report is very good from LinkedIn. AI is coming to work. I would recommend that as well. And also LinkedIn published on February 12th or 14th the LinkedIn Learning Report for 2025. So that's also another report to take a look at. And the book that I'm currently reading on my bedstand is Super Agency from Reid Hoffman, the co-founder of LinkedIn. Subtitle, What Could Possibly Go Right with Our AI Future? Really interesting look at the positive angles of AI. There's a lot of works out there that don't have such a positive view of AI. And, I don't know if I don't think I included any here, but I could always give you some if you're really interested. And by the way, just one of the people who's written, I think, 2 or 3 books, is quoted here as supporting Reid Hoffman's Super Agency, is Yuval Noah Harari. I would also look up him. He's got a really good historical perspective of all that's going on and how it's changing humanity. And so finally now, right in the last 10 minutes here or so, and I do want to give some time, for questions and try to handle the chat. I see some people writing things in chats. Can't see anything. I always wonder, hey, is it good? Hope it's good. I'm going to just introduce a new taxonomy of skills and cognitive abilities to help you kind of wrap this up to say, okay, I need to reskill, I need to upskill. What are the specific skills? Well, that's going to depend on your position and your industry and your function and your responsibilities and so forth. So you have hopefully a basic fundamental understanding of what is going on around the world. And I'm going to, I don't know if anyone's ever studied Bloom's taxonomy, but I use this as a model to build out Edmondson's taxonomy of AI adoption. And this Bloom's taxonomy, if you're an education major, you study this. Bloom created it in 1956. His student revised it in 2001. It went from nouns to verbs. And the top of Bloom's taxonomy today is creating. It used to be evaluation, right? Like you take a test, and if you scored higher, you were the smart, you're deemed and defined as the smartest person in the room. That's not the case now. In any educational setting, it's generally not the person that scores the highest. It's the person that creates the best, which is just a little bit more subjective, but that's okay because the creation concept directly corresponds to a business task, usually, or an educational task. So can you create something? And when I looked at this, and I'm like, well, that's what you do with AI. Right? You augment your intelligence with an AI tool, right? And so I said, all right, let me put together something for people to use. And I have a URL. You'll get this URL again. There's a white paper on this you can download. And I said, let me do this, but a little bit differently. And I'm going to give you a quiz in a minute. So if you have something to write on and with, that would be helpful. You're going to assess your organization's approach to AI and your own personal approach to AI. So that's coming up in 60 seconds. So again, this URL has a white paper that you can download. So I want to take you through each of the 6 levels and just ask some very basic questions. The whole point of this is for you to have a baseline of where your organization is. And look, if you're not the president or CEO of your business, that's fine. Just do it from your perspective. Where do you believe your organization is in relation to each of these levels? Now, if you don't know, that in and of itself, right, is a key finding, because then it hasn't been communicated clearly, right? So that's, again, it goes back to culture, and different story for another day. So let me go over each of these levels. Start with level 1, awareness and recognition, and work our way up to leadership and visionary thinking, right? So level 1. And I'm going to go over these, and then I'll give you the questions. And we're not going to spend a whole lot of time here, but enough time to make sure that you have an understanding of these before we get to the assessment. At the organizational level, are you at level 1, which means that your organization is raising awareness of AI's potential benefits and limitations? Has there been an email? Has there been a workshop? Has there been some kind of communication at the organizational level about AI? And I have talked to many of people who have said no. So they're not even at level 1 at an organizational level. On the personal side, And this is where it's interesting, what I have found and what is continuously unfolding, especially at the high school level and the college level, is you have organizations or bosses that are saying you cannot use AI, but the individual is using AI, right? So level one, for the personal level, do you have a basic awareness of AI technologies, their potential impact, and ethical implications, right? You're building a foundational knowledge. You could argue you attended this webinar today, so you do have a basic awareness and recognition. So personally, you're at a level one, right? Level two is, if you've passed level one, you move on to level two. At an organizational level, they focus on the practical application of AI technologies to improve operational efficiency. Have they done, at the very least, looked at, hey, this is ChatGPT, this is what it is. We're going to teach you how to use it over a series of workshops. Again, if you haven't done one, you're not here, right? So maybe some of you are here. Personal level, you've started to play with some AI tools effectively for day-to-day tasks, right? This is important. You're an inquisitive person. You're curious, right? The most curious people are often the most creative. They have the most agile thinking, oftentimes the most productive teams, because they generate, very good culture that's required for, the strategic imperatives of work. Level three, again, if you've passed level two, then you move your organization up to level three. Now you're focused in on analyzing data produced by AI systems. Is that happening? And at the personal level, are you developing skills in data analysis and critical thinking to evaluate AI tools' effectiveness in your role, right? And again, I know a lot of people that are doing this. They're way ahead of their organization. And yes, there are security reasons and privacy reasons and all that, why companies don't want to put their data out on a public system. But now you have the capacity to create your own AI tool, keep it secure in your own server or cloud, and you can upload information just for your company there. Has your company even thought about that or gone down that road? Level four is synthesis and creative problem solving. This is a really interesting one. Organizations have all these tools to just use an AI tool for brainstorming. Hey, here's a bunch of data. Here's 5,000 pages of data. Here are some of our problems. How would you propose AI tool that we solve them? Give me 10 different ways to solve it. All right? I do that with my AI tools all the time. Here's a bunch of data. Here are some words. You can upload 10 documents to ChatGPT at once. Here are 10 reports. Read these reports and do X, Y, and Z with them, right? And then I go and I use it from different perspectives and so forth. So I do use it for synthesis and creative problem solving. Does your organization, do you? And again, some of you might be like, yeah, I am at level 4 and my organization's still stuck at 1 or 2. Again, that's going to be very common. Adaptation and strategic implementation. Is the organization work going into each business unit and helping the manager of the business unit become agile and figuring out a way to implement the AI technology? What are you doing personally? Are you adapting to the new AI tools and technologies that is aligned with your own work? I mean, again, it depends on what you're doing. I don't know what anyone's work is, but I have talked to many people that are like, yeah, you literally use this tool all the time now, or these tools all the time for my personal life. Yeah, of course you do. And then finally, does your organization have a vision statement for AI? Do you have a visionary mindset? Like, how do you envision the future? Ever since Lucas, my grandson, was born, really have been obsessed with thinking about the future and his toys. I can't wait to buy him some toys, and because I know AI is going to be in there somewhere. So what will that do to his cognitive development? Is it going to be worse? Is it going to be better than prior generations? We don't know, but it's really fascinating. So here's how you take the assessment. And again, you will have this, you can go back to it. You just ask yourself, how often in the last 30 days or 10 days, pick a time frame, did your organization do each of the 6, and how often did you practice each of the 6 levels of the taxonomy? Give yourself 0 for never, 5 for always, and you come up with a score. It's a very simple rubric. And I never do strengths and weaknesses. I hate those terms. You're not strong, you're not weak. It's just a matter of finding out how often do you practice one or more of the attributes of the taxonomy at the organizational level or at the individual level. And then there's a scoring rubric here, right? You've either started the process or you've not started it. So it depends on, again, where you're at. And then I did want to, as I finish up here, I did want to just give you some new information. This is, brand new. NJIT back in December through the Center for Educational Innovation and Excellence, CEIE, and Nikki Bosca is the inaugural director of the CEIE, identified 10 core competencies, AI core competencies, that all NJIT students should be able to demonstrate upon graduation. And what the LDI did is I went to Provost Dr. Palesko, and I said, the LDI can create 10 micro-credentials to support the AI core competencies so that the students will have a course to take. Each of the 10 courses, it's 2 hours, it's self-paced, it's a fully online, asynchronous, and you get an NJIT digital badge certificate upon completion. We are opening that up to the public. We're going to sell, like a lot of universities that have non-degree credential business units. We're going to sell it. I will give Kate a code that she will distribute to the alumni. You'll have access to the AI literacy micro-credential, and it's the first of many that the LDI is building out over the next year. But the micro-credential, we hope to launch it in May. Don't know the exact week yet because we're still testing it out, but it'll be available in May. And again, it's 10 2-hour courses, so 20 hours in total. You will get a discount code. I will send it to Kate. She'll send it out. I also want to inform you that we do have some free workshops. We have free workshops. Tracy McDonald, my director of custom training. I'm going to give you her email address again and LinkedIn again. She may or may not be on the call. You can talk to her about the free workshops. She does custom training. She goes all over to companies and organizations, nonprofits, and finds the right subject matter expert and connects them to you and your organization so that the custom training project directly supports your learning objectives. We're very proud of our work. We're a little bit different than most shops that do custom training. And again, this is the contact information, my email, Tracy's email. The presentation link is at tinyurl.com/NJIT 031325, which I think is today's date. And then to download the Edmondson taxonomy, there's that link. And I have about a minute left. So there you go. I think we're on time. I don't even know what time it is. Oh, it's 12:55. So yes. So
Great.
Kate,
Thank
I
you,
mean, just
Dr. Edmondson. Folks, this is your chance to make comments, ask questions, whatever you're most comfortable with. If you want to unmute yourself or type in the chat, I will gladly ask them.
let me see here.
And hi,
Okay,
Tracy. Thank you
push
for joining us.
for. Let me see. Oh, so George had a question. How do you feel about it being used as the sole tool in regulated environments? Yeah, I think I'm still, look, I love technology and I love AI, George. I would still want human oversight. I think, I think that's very important. Tracy's there. She put her email in chat. Thanks, Tracy. And Lawrence, I don't know. I think throughout world history, this is a much larger conversation. The push for AI seems to partially be driven by the motivation to replace people. That is certainly a paradigm that is out there. So I don't know. I think that's just a larger conversation. Every technology replaces people and also creates, new jobs as well. So I want to thank everyone. So And then
Excellent.
people kept coming in throughout, and so hopefully, what 1 or 2 steps should we start our AI journey on? Well, Christopher, it's a great question. I would take a look at the free reports that I mentioned in here, and I would also attend a free workshop that Tracy's offering. Again, her email is in the chat, and it's in the was in the slides. Go to ldi.njit.edu, and you'll see the workshops listed there. You could also email me or Tracy. We can connect you with that, and the link is there. You have Tracy's email, and I will also, Michael, how do I spell my name? edmotsn@njit.edu. Whenever I'm like talking and typing, it's like it's a disaster. Michael.Edmondson@njit.edu. I couldn't even do that right, njit.edu.
And Tracy, if you have the link for that